authorpreneurship expert. Ruth has created the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy and the first Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit around her book, Authorpreneur Secrets. Write fast, publish affordably, and generate lasting income. As an Amazon best-selling author of 21 books, she has coached several Caribbean authors to become Amazon best-selling authors. Her mission is to raise up 10,000 winning Caribbean entrepreneurs by 2030, to ensure fewer books die in the minds of their authors, that more manuscripts become published legacies, and precious lives are transformed with the turn of every page. Let's welcome C. Ruth Taylor.
Hello, authorpreneurs and aspiring authorpreneurs. If you are an existing author, after your book launch, what do you do to keep the momentum going? If you're like me on your author journey, you would be hoping that your first book would make you a millionaire, or you're looking forward to selling thousands of books and you think that having a book would help you to relax, to gain financial freedom. But it doesn't happen like that for majority of us, especially those of us who are publishing independently. So many authors become discouraged and they don't know what to do. I want to say to you that there's more to a book than just selling the book. Selling books is not the end game. And this evening, as I start this series on Authorpreneur Secrets, which has to do with my experience in becoming an author entrepreneur and learning to make a living with books, I want to share my story, how it started and how it's going. And as I share my story, we're going to decode some of the lessons that I hope will help you to make a living with books so that you are not as disappointed as I tend to see many authors. I want to give you some tips and tricks so that you can make a living with books. And so let's get started. I'm C. Ruth Taylor, founder of the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy, CEO and founder of Bamboo Sparks, also known as Extra Mile Innovators. And this year, I published the hardcover version of Authorpreneur Secrets. Write fast, publish cost effectively, and generate lasting income. This is the revised edition. The one you're seeing here was published in 2019, and this was the first cover. And then we revised, changed the cover, and 5 years later, produced this book that has not just my story, but the stories of other authors who are learning to make a living with books and exposing us to the different possibilities. So this should be about half an hour, depending on, I'm going to leave a little segment for Q&A, but let me get into the teaching for this evening. This is about how it started. So I'm going to show a little clip when I launched my first authorpreneurship initiative. I didn't even know the word authorpreneur back then. And you're going to learn more about that. And this is live. So what you see is what you get. All right, let's go. So from that video, you would see that I'm having a birthday party. You would see clips of a launch. Now, the first set of clips is from 2018. Before I get to 2018, let me backtrack so that you can get a better understanding of my story. And hopefully, as I share my story, you will learn some lessons from it. So, I became an author in a published author in 2015. I wrote my first book in May. I finished it in time for my birthday in May 2014. And then for the next 9 months, we worked on publishing it. At that time, I was unemployed. I was a missionary with an organization called Operation Mobilization. And I sensed that God was leading me out of that organization into the field of writing and publishing. And so, no money, had a huge publishing budget, had a company that was managing the publishing process. And even though it was expensive at the time, I was willing to take the risk of borrowing and raising funds. I even had a GoFundMe because I had the grand idea that I would publish 5,000 books and sell them, and I would become financially stable. And I had my plan worked out, all worked out. Alas, that did not work. And so I didn't get to print 5,000 books. I ended up printing, I think, 1,200 books. And so, that quest, I would sell books. And I had this grand plan to sell books. And the sales, that first book led me into speaking. And so I would go to different churches to speak. I even had a school tour, and I partnered with Jermaine Gordon and First Heritage, and I was doing this book tour and hoping that the book would sell. And yes, books were selling, but it wasn't enough to sustain me fully. And in that season, I also felt that God was telling me not to have a 9 to 5 job. I would not go back to the regular workforce. And so I couldn't have a full-time 9 to 5 job. And so the book sales wasn't cutting it to pay my bills and help me to survive. So I took a part-time job. So between September 2015 and July 2018, I had to take a part-time job because I was about $1 million in debt. Because in my naivety on this journey, I had these grand ideas. I had 2 big launches. I took on the task of printing 5,000 books. Couldn't afford it. And at the end of the process, I owed people. And I wasn't earning enough from book sales to be able to pay my debts and take care of myself. When I say it was rough, it was rough. There were days I didn't know where I was going to find food. There were days when the rent was to be paid, and I just put on Dietrich Haddon, God is able to do, or I would put on Jason Crab Through the Fire just to encourage myself. God always came through. The rent was paid, but sometimes very little, and then family chimed in to help. And so I had to get a part-time job. So I was working at Heart. And during this time, as I was working part-time, 2 to 3 days per week, I was paying off some of the loans, and I kept writing. So within that time, I wrote 3 more books. I wrote Design to Win, I wrote When Trees Talk, and Keys to Win. And so in addition to Heartache Queen and Shackled, I had 4 books. Then I was under the conviction again that God was saying, It's not just no 9 to 5, no full-time job. I want you to leave your part-time job. And I kind of know when God is talking to me, and not everybody in the audience is a Christian, but I have that conviction and that sense that this is the time, this is what the Lord is saying. And so, July, I resigned. July 4, America's independence was my freedom day, so to speak. And I knew I needed to do something different because the first time it didn't work. Just trying to sell books didn't work. So, what I did, I started, again, as led by the Lord, I started getting coaching. And so, a friend was offering a workshop, Passion to Profit. And I had a dream, and um, I saw that I was talking to her and everything, and I was saying, I have all of these ideas. How could I? Why am I not making any money with them? And going to that workshop taught me that I needed to niche down. I wanted to reach everybody. I didn't understand how to. I didn't understand my market. I didn't know who. I was on social media doing things, but I didn't know who I was talking to. I didn't know who my market was. And so I took the coaching then, and then she had another program, and I signed up for that program. That one was now more business coaching. And within a few months after getting that training, that which I was trying to learn on my own for 4 years through YouTube videos and reading, nothing was clicking. And with that training and continuing to listen to the voice of the Lord, continuing to read, I started matching my part-time salary. So unlike the first time when I jumped and thought that it was just selling books that was gonna do it and that would be it, this time I took a different approach. And shortly before leaving the job, not so much short, but a couple months before, I published the fourth book. And since I knew that this is all that there would be, I knew I needed to make it work. But all my mind was still thinking more on book selling. And then one day it dawned on me, you need to do more than sell books. And so the next book, that fourth book, I decided that I was going to launch an academy. A lot, you will hear academy used a lot online. These are like schools of training or coaching where they teach different things. And so I said, this time I'm not just going to have any book launch. I am going to launch a service or a product. And so when I launched the book for my birthday, it was a birthday book and business launch. And I launched the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy. And I was offering personal development coaching. I created my Design to Win course, a free course, and I created a coaching program, and I launched it on that day, and I gave out forms and everything. And so I started getting clients. And so by July, I think by July 5, I was speaking at a graduation. And I think within that same month, I had persons signed up for my Design to Win coaching program, which was using the book, the content from the book, to help persons to achieve their personal goals. And I was also offering what you call it? I was a career coach, so I was offering career coaching. And so I'm sharing the story because I want to drive home a couple points. And then after a while doing that, yes, some income coming, but this is July. By about October, I realized that, okay, I'm not getting as much clients. I need something more. And so one day I just heard to just start a Facebook group in the Authorpreneurs. And then on that challenge, I wrote the book, the first edition of the book, Authorpreneur Secrets. And not only that, people would come to me and ask me about how to publish and different things, publish on a budget, and what's the steps to publish. And I really did not want to publish for others. I was happy publishing for myself because that helped me to cut down on costs. And I mean, when you're not working, you have to find your own income. I don't want to go back into more debt because I was indebted for the first 4 books. And so I didn't want to do that. Thankfully, somebody, ND Author Services, they published it for free. I only had to buy the ISBN. And I said I would launch a boot camp with it. And so immediately out the gate, that was another income stream. And people kept coming to me about publishing. And I just heard that the Lord was saying, you're leaving money on the table. And so I said, I'm going to offer publishing services, consultation services. I didn't fully want to take on the task of publishing for others. Eventually, I came to my senses and I started offering publishing services. I started taking my experience and teaching others. And I was still trying to sell books. I would speak. I would still be doing personal development coaching. I would do boot camps and events and different things. And after a while, within a short time, especially with the publishing services, I was able to sustain myself. So much so that during the last 5 years, I have been able to literally make a living with books by teaching people about books, by getting speaking engagements. Selling books is only a fraction, a small fraction of my income. This approach to making a living with books has helped me to fund 50% of my doctoral studies, and doing a doctorate is not cheap. It has helped me. I don't have to worry now where my rent is coming from or those kind of bills. No, I have to worry in terms of how I'm going to pay my team. And it all centers around making a living with books. But the thing is, when your back is against the wall, there is this thing about burn the boats. In ancient warfare, when the general wanted the army to win, even Alexander the Great did it. When they went up against Persia, what they did was to burn the boat. So the soldiers had no recourse. They could not go back. And they had to fight to win because they could not retreat. For me, my conviction that God was saying, no 9 to 5, don't work for anybody, and you have bills to pay. Thankfully, I'm child free, so I didn't have that drama or that kind of responsibility. I could take that risk. It's not that I don't have skills and couldn't do other things, but I had no recourse but to make a living with books. This is what I had. The Spirit of the Lord forbid me from going to work with anybody, so I had to make it work. I don't know who is joining me. I see 3 persons joining live. But if you're an author, let me know. Are you making a living with your books? Because the truth is, after the book launch, after we've sold the first 200 or so, nothing is happening for a lot of authors. And many of you, your desire is that the book would be your retirement income. Your desire is that this book, you're just thinking of selling books, and you think that once you put the book on Amazon and you're excited about it, all your friends and family and everybody is going to buy it, and then the needle is going to move. And so I learned those Authorpreneur secrets, which I've documented implemented in this book. And the first one from my experience is, and not every, the truth is not everybody wants to make a full-time living with books. For some, it's just a side income. For some persons, it's a passion, it's a hobby. But this broadcast is for those who, it's not just your passion, you want to go from passion to profit. Maybe you want it to be a supplementary income. Hi, Auntie Janet. Maybe you want it to be a supplementary income. Maybe you want it to be the full-time income to replace what you are doing. I am not sharing so much other people's experience. I'm sharing what worked for me. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. There are things that you're going to have to learn. But one of the things I had to learn was how to publish. If I'm going to use the books, I have to publish the books for myself. I had to learn because I could not keep doling out 2,000 or 3,000 US dollars to somebody to do it, because guess what? I burnt the boats. I could not retreat. All right. And so the first thing was to invest in learning how to self-publish and to do it affordably. So that's the first thing that helped me, learning to self-publish. So it meant I could take control and publish when I want, and I could keep my costs down. That didn't mean I did everything myself, but I took charge. I wasn't trying to find thousands of dollars to publish. I learned how to do parts of the process. If you're not getting a traditional deal where you are being paid 10,000 US or 50,000 US, and if you're really, I don't know if any author in the Caribbean, even if you're getting a trad deal, that you're at that level where they're going to give you 150,000 US dollars. If you got that, then you could live off that for 2-3 years, you know, and you could make a living. We who publish, we often self-publish, or we pay a company to publish. And self-publishing worked for me, and I learned to reduce my publishing cost. So that's the first thing. And then what you write about, I had to publish a book. That my first book was my story. So that lent itself mostly to speaking, not necessarily coaching and training. And so that led to speaking. But the design to win, that led to coaching. So I could charge more. I could develop a course. I could develop a coaching program around it. And that's when I began to see more income coming in. And so the second key is offering multiple services. Using the same book, multiple services or multiple offers. So you can speak. So the topics on from the book, I was able to speak on them. People would invite me to speak. Sometimes they would pay me, sometimes they wouldn't pay me. But I know that when I speak, I would sell some books. And so that worked out for me. So speaking and selling. And then the courses and the coaching and events, I would do like boot camps and charge. I was teaching from the book. So Authorpreneur Secrets, I would teach people how to write. So I'm turning my own experience into something I'm charging people for, whether it's the coaching or the teaching. And I'm doing them sometimes simultaneously. And then in 2020, I started a membership, what I call a membership group. I started the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy, published some more books. I use Authorpreneur Secrets. And so you set up what you call a membership group. I'll tell you more about that in the future, but that is something that gives you recurring income each month. And that's what I did. I started teaching people. I started learning different skills in the publishing process. Like I learned to format. I started editing. So remember, I know how to make a living with books. And that's how more income started coming in. So you probably would run some things. You probably could do 2 things at a time. You run one program for 6 months, you run one course for 6 weeks, and you keep speaking and selling. And together, all of that was able to give me an income that I could take care of my month-to-month expenses and not depend on other people. So it's multiple services that worked. It wasn't just one thing. And I learned that the book is not the end game. All right. And the third thing that worked for me, and you heard it from a story, was getting business coaching. Too often we're just trying to do this on our own. Each time I have progress on my journey is because I invested in coaching. I got a guide. And sometimes I remember when I was doing the podcast, I was reading for months and watching YouTube videos for podcasting, and I still couldn't get it. And I did one session with Henika Watkins Porter. And I think it was an hour and a half, or somewhere thereabout. But by the end of that, I was able to set up my podcast. The same thing. When I got the coaching, I remember I did a 90-day program with Henika. And out of that, I launched my rocket writing. I did the second entrepreneurship boot camp. And she gave me some principles that really worked. And so for those who are just joining, I'm saying the key for me was to get business coaching. The other thing was to offer multiple services, not just one thing. And the other thing that helped me was learning to self-publish my own book so that I didn't have to keep doling out thousands of dollars. And sometimes it's one book that you need. Authorpreneur Secrets is the main book. I have sold less than 100 copies of that book, but it has given me more money than everything else. It has opened the doors. So I'm gonna leave the door open for questions. You heard my story. For me, remember, I burnt the boat. I could not go back. So I had to make it work. I had to find a way. And I self-published. I took the content of the book and I created different programs. I got coaching, I got help. And when I signed up for some of those coaching programs, I didn't have the money. I had to work out a payment plan with the coach and trust that the initiatives that I am starting would make money. And eventually it worked to the point that today, with books, I am helping other people to make a living with books. And what I want to do over the next couple of weeks is to break that down, teach you more about publishing, writing, and different income streams, and get other people to help you. I'm not the only one doing this. One of my clients and friend, Reverend Dunbar, what she did, she launched her gym academy. And with her books, she has different courses related to her book. So the content of the book is the book is part of the course, like the text, but it's not just one course, it's multiple course. Because when you're new to a thing and you're trying to build up an audience, it takes a while. You may get one client here and the next month referral. It takes a while for you to get your name out there and people to know what you're doing, to build up enough income. And so you want to do multiple things so that if for 3 months you're doing this one, the next, you can, every 6 weeks, you could relaunch the same course and do something else. Some of you are shy, so you may not want to speak, but I discovered over 30 different ways that you can use your book to earn. And so I'm going to be sharing those. And we have the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy that you can join. For some of you are thinking, how do I publish cost effectively? Every January, I give 10 persons an opportunity to publish for less than $1,000 and you learn the process. I also offer scholarships each year. So those who want to learn to become a publisher, if that's one of the things you want to do, you have an opportunity for that. You have persons who will partner with you. Remember, I said somebody offer to publish this for free. How badly do you want it? How badly do you want it? So, Auntie Janet, any question? Welcome to the broadcast. Any comments? I don't want this to be too long. Good evening. Any comments? Any questions? I know some persons will catch it on the replay, but it is possible. Book sales is not the end game. There are other things that you can do with your book. And if you're going to make a living with books, unless you have a massive team and you're running ads and doing all kind of things, selling books alone will not be enough. Any questions, any comment? What's your takeaway from this session? Was it helpful? Talk to me. Even one comment before we go. I'm not seeing any comments, no questions, no takeaway. What from my story has impacted you? Any insight? Okay. So Auntie Janet says, thank you for being so generous with your knowledge. Again, this is me responding to the spirit to teach these things, because the vision is by 2030, we want to raise up 10,000 Caribbean entrepreneurs. Vision 2030, the government, as part of its national development plan, one of the outcomes is to promote and use intellectual property as a tool for economic development. So in doing this, it's my way as well of contributing to national development. And of course, I want to encourage persons to go get this book, because it has the secrets. It's on Amazon, and I also have copies. So you can contact me for it. You can email Ruth Taylor at extramileja.com if you need more information, or you guys can contact me at Ruth at authorpreneursecrets.com. All right, so we're going to end this evening, and I'll tell you what the next topic will be. But every Thursday, I'm going to be doing this, God willing. Auntie Janet says she's interested in business coaching. All right, as recommended. Good. So we'll talk. We'll talk, and I'm glad that this session proved somewhat insightful and helpful. Share it with a friend, and ta for now until next time. Take care. Let me close out with some clips from